everybody know that we're live streaming, and due to the live streaming, if there is any disruption during this live streaming, we will stop our council meeting and wait for the live streaming to be returned, and we'll continue our council meeting. Thank you, everybody. Acknowledgement of traditional owners. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we are meeting. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and all elders from other communities who may not be with us here today. I'd also like to make special mention of the Bangaram people of the land in which we are meeting. Would we all please stand for the prayer? Thank you. Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberation so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people for whom we serve. Amen. Thank you. So we'll quickly go through these 3 points that are coming up on our agenda item here today. I'd like to say that all councillors are present, including myself as the Mayor. I'm not there in person, but via a Teams meeting, which is now legal, and my vote does count under these proceedings. Acceptance, apologies and grant of leave. Well, there are none since we can all now attend virtually. I'd like to go to the order of business, and first is item number 6, conflict of interest. Councillor Dave Fuller, would you like to declare conflict of interest, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll declare a conflict of interest, material in nature, for item 8.1, in which I'm the chair of the Wangaratta Festival of Jazz and Blues.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. You're happy to step outside the room and you're not voting on this item?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll firstly move to officers' reports, and I'll move to item number 7.1, which is the Council Plan 2021 to 2025 and the Community Vision 2033. Thank you, Director Jamie Chubb.
Thank you. So this report's presented to Council tonight for the final adoption of the 2021 to 2025 Council Plan and the Community Vision 2033. These new documents are required under the new Local Government Act 2020 and have gone through a process of extensive community deliberative engagement with many people throughout our community. The documents presented tonight include the incorporation of the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan as part of the Council Plan and reflects the priorities that were identified through the first wave of the consultation, as well as the submissions that have been made throughout the review period. The recommendation before Council tonight is that Council considers the submissions and then adopts the Council Vision and the Council Plan, which incorporates the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, and notifies in writing to the people who made submissions the outcome of their submissions.
Thank you, Director Chubb. Can I please have a mover? Sorry, there are no questions from the gallery or from the public on this. So can I please have a mover for this? Councillor Fuller to move it and Councillor Fitzpatrick to second. Councillor Fuller, would you like to talk first on this Council Plan and Vision?
I'm right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would any other councillors like to talk on the community? Councillor Bustle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And a bit of this is probably could be associated with the budget, but most of it's not. We have an outstanding diverse tourism offering within the region, including cycle tourism, food, wine, eco and nature-based tourism. Our plan ensures the development of key tourism infrastructure that enhances the visitor experience. One of the most significant projects in delivery of the King Valley Prosecco Road Master Plan to begin next year. This $4 million fully funded project delivered over 2 years will see entrance beautification, revitalisation, artworks and playground projects. We will continue to launch tourism marketing campaigns to promote the municipality as a place to visit, and launch a new Visit Wangaratta website to provide relevant, up-to-date travel content to ensure visitors get the most out of their experience when they're here. We're investing in new and upgrading community infrastructure, including the design of Oxley and Chestnut infrastructure plans, continued delivery of King Valley Ride Event, a bushfire recovery initiative. This event took place in May this year for the first time to launch the new King Valley gravel cycle trails and was a huge success, and we look forward to seeing it grow, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Would any other councillor like to talk on this prior to me talking? Councillor Grant and then Councillor Herry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, I'd like to begin by saying well done and congratulations to everyone who put in a huge amount of work. I mean, there's been a lot of feedback to the community plan, and there's been a lot of work by the officers to compile all the information that's come across their desks in terms of framing this vision for the future. Saying that though, I'm also just a little bit disappointed that we didn't get a more broad cross-section of the community. We've got a very dedicated group who gave their time and gave their input. Would love to have seen a broader cross-section, but I think my view has always been that as councillors, it's our responsibility to be part of that deliberative and that consultation engagement process throughout our work on council. So this is just part of a process. You know, it's interesting that, you know, when people are part of this consultation plan, they tend to think that they're going to change the world, but unfortunately that's not possible, because, you know, we're obliged to be practical and I think and do the things that are possible and that we can afford and that are part of our core business. So you know, I see this as a step in the process and one that's necessary, and I'm looking forward to working to our plan as we move forward, but to, you know, focus on the things that, you know, we can do and that are possible, and that refer back to what is essentially council's core business.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Herry.
Thank you, Mayor Rees. I concur with Councillor Grant's comments. I'd like to acknowledge the huge amount of work poured into the creation of these documents, the countless staff hours, the community's generous time and energy, and of course the time and consideration on part of my colleagues here tonight. With the new Local Government Act stipulating deliberative community engagement, on the tail of a council election with a new mix of elected representatives, and all amid a pandemic, no less. It's definitely been no small feat to coordinate the preparation and finalisation of these significant documents. And while I've made it fairly well known that I would have preferred to have taken some more time, time that would perhaps have resulted in gathering that broader community representative group that Councillor Grant spoke of. In the preparation of these documents, as indeed many other councils have opted, and is supported in the Local Government Act, I do acknowledge that I've stood clearly in the minority in that pursuit and concede that, and will happily accept the consideration of the final draft of these documents tonight. Despite some of the aspects of the process of the development not being quite, as I see it, perfect, I appreciate perfection is rarely a reasonable expectation. And of course we must remember we're always engaged in a continual improvement process, and these sorts of documents do come up for review and are constantly on the table, so to speak, and being considered and refined and improved as we progress throughout their life cycle. So having said all that, I speak in support of these two documents. The vision and the plan on the table before us are documents that provide a broad scope for Wangaratta to continue to grow and to ensure that growth is of a nature considering quality before quantity. Some standout elements of the documents include progress towards reconciliation and the healing that will bring our communities, with a clear action regarding development of a reconciliation action plan, development of a climate change policy, which was a recent addition. I can't stress the importance of this action enough, so that we might indicate clearly where this council sits with respect to meaningful acknowledgement of the magnitude and scope of climate change. Weaving of the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan into the fabric of the greater council plan document. an increasingly holistic approach is important going forward, with that concept of a triple bottom line kept clearly within sights. It's perhaps somewhat fitting with this year's NAIDOC theme of heal country. We have all too often we can, in some respects, forget the preeminence of country. Obviously, without a healthy country and environment, we cannot have healthy people, for we are just one part of country, and without either of those two things, there will be no chance of a robust, healthy and equitable economy. So all three aspects are definitely important, but no individual thing is as important as their relationship and their hierarchy with one another. In conclusion, it almost goes without saying that discerning and robust decision-making and oversight will be required ongoing. Such oversight, particularly crucial in the absence of plentiful strategic indicators with clear ties so that every action in the plan is spoken for. But I do look forward to the challenge of overseeing the implementation of these documents to the benefit of the greater good for our broad and diverse community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Herry. Any other councillors?
Yeah.
Councillor Benton.
Thank you, Mayor Rees. I would like to just point out in the plan, it also highlights the delivery of the rural placemaking plan is still alive, and we will deliver in some areas, although it'll be in a different structure that we've had in previous years, but it's still there on the table within the plan, and the council supports that. The other thing that just in the water security area, I'd like to be able to say that the work that has been done and it's going to come before council, it's highlighted in this plan that we are going to make sure that we get some sort of advocacy up that the other levels of government and agencies are committed to the water security for this municipality. The other parts, for consideration that have come out of the plan is the Aquatic Center. It is also projected in this year we're going to be able to extend the plan, the area, and I know this is with my speech here, Mr Mayor, is overlaps into the budget area coming up, and we'll talk about that later, but the extended expansion of the Wangaratta Sports and Aquatic Centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. If there's no others prior to me, and I'll then forward back to Dave to end off. Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to thank all of the individuals who did make submissions and reach out to council, and especially Jamie and her team in the offices that really did support our community members in making submissions. I think it's fantastic when our community members invest in the council plan and vision, because it is also their future. I just want to point out that council commits to ensure we are going to look after one another, and that our community provides links for those impacted by suicide and other mental health issues. We will continue to deliver the community-based and led Grit and Resilience program in partnership with the program, and advocate for continued funding and support the development and delivery of driven mental health and wellbeing projects through Council's community grants program. So this is heavily implemented here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Prior to me just handing back to Dave, or before I make a statement, I'd like to ask a question to Director Chubb. Director, I've been working with you now for 5 years and been on council for 5 years, Mayor as the third. I haven't seen myself personally a larger amount of people gathered to give feedback for this vision and the plan. And you've been here prior to us coming on council during those administration years as well. How has the community changed in relation to feedback and consultation, whether deliberative or just normal consultation that was done? Do you find it much easier and better and a lot more than what we've ever experienced?
Yeah, definitely. I think over the last few years in particular, we've had an increased participation level right across the board, whether we're talking about the highest level strategic documents like our council plan and community vision, or some of our other strategies and policies that we have out in the community. I think there's many reasons for that. I think increased accessibility. I think that we are doing much better in communicating how to engage with council and when things are out for review. I also think we're doing better at incorporating the feedback of our community into our strategies and policies so that people can actually see how their intent is being translated into the actions of our strategies. Compared to other previous years where we've had council plans out, we may receive a handful of submissions, questions or comments. This year we've had 35 submissions from the public, but that doesn't include the hundreds of people who participated in the surveys on the Shape Wangaratta panel or gave us comments when we were doing some of our pop-up consultations throughout the community. So significantly higher engagement levels than we've previously seen with council plan development.
Thank you, Director. Now, everybody, this is the first council plan in a 4-year cycle. It's always an exciting time, and this year especially significant as we are presenting it alongside the 12-year community vision. I'm especially proud of the council plan and community vision that we're recommending here today, and I recommend all councils vote for. Because more than ever, these are documents created by the community for the community. Over the past 6 months, we have spoken with people from all across the rural city of Wangaratta to find out what they value most about the region, their aspirations for the future, and what is truly important to them. We had a staggering 1,104 responses to our Shape Wangaratta community survey, and 126 enthusiastic community members volunteered to be part of our Shape Wangaratta panel. The panel is an amazing resource and is already making a positive difference to how we engage with our community. Over the past months, they have dedicated their time and efforts in workshops, surveys and sessions to create the plan and vision we see here today in front of us and for us to vote. For that, we'd like to thank you all. We'd also like to thank the community members who came forward in the past few weeks and contributed their ideas and feedback during the public consultation period. We had 35 submissions which show how committed our community members are to creating the best plan for the future, or the best plan for their future too. So what did you tell us? You told us that you wanted to take the lead on big issues, to look out for one another, to achieve growth without losing the lifestyle we value, and to be strong environmental stewards. These themes have become a key focus in the area of community vision and the council plan. How we bring them to life is a really exciting part. Just one example is ongoing commitment to the community-based Grit and Resilience program. This initiative helps us fulfil the commitment to a strong focus on community links for those impacted by suicide and other mental health issues. The Grit and Resilience program has already made a significant impact in our community and was recently used as a case study in the Royal Commission into Mental Health, which recommends a similar community-led approach to mental health be employed across all local government areas. This is just one example of many actions we deliver over the next 4 years to connect directly with the goals of the 12-year vision, goals that are important to our community. To finish off, I'd just like to say that I've learned a lot through this process, but it doesn't stop here. We're committed to continuing to engage our community and find the best ways forward, and for you to tell us what's important to you. A huge thanks to our CEO and the team led by Jamie for this vision and plan. Thank you. Councillor Fuller, would you like to end off as the...
I'm right, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
You're right. Thank you. Well, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour of accepting the recommendation? That's the recommendation is carried. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to declare my conflict of interest before we move on to 8.1 in regards to my chair of the Wangaratta Festival of Jazz and Blues. So I'll leave the room at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. To 8.1, the 2021 Wangaratta Festival of Jazz and Blues funding support. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor Rees. So this report is presented to Council for a decision on the support offered to the 2021 Wangaratta Festival of Jazz and Blues. And as you've just heard, it's been presented separately to the rest of the budget due to Councillor Fuller's conflict of interest, given his role as chair of the festival. Festival programming is still underway, with the board anticipating delivery of both a live and online event schedule at this point in time. And to enable the delivery of this premier event, it's requested that Council provides financial assistance of $13,000 to provide award prize monies. And the recommendation is that Council authorises that provision of the $13,000 in the 2021-22 budget to support the festival as a contribution towards those prize monies. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. There is no public questions on this item, and I will look for a councillor to move the recommendation, please. Councillor Grant as the mover and a seconder. I'll take Councillor Herry. Thank you, Jack. Councillor Grant, would you like to talk on the recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm pleased to support the recommendation and just say that the Jazz Festival has over many years been a very important event in the rural city of Wangaratta, and I'm hopeful that it will continue to be that into the future. Council is supporting the festival. And, you know, I think it's an opportunity today to also urge businesses to get behind the festival. You know, it's an important part of our tourism and visitation offer. We do events well in the rural city of Wangaratta, and I think, you know, the Festival of Jazz has always been one of those events that has attracted not only, you know, locals who've gone away and come back, but, you know, people from all over Australia and beyond. So looking forward to this year's festival being bigger and better than ever, and continue to play a very important part in our tourism offer.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Would anyone else like to talk on the Jazz Festival? Councillor Herry, please.
Thank you, Mayor Rees. Yeah, I concur with Councillor Grant's comments. The Jazz Festival is a significant event. It obviously has undergone a number of changes over recent years, and as all live music and large gathering events have struggled, it too has struggled with the pandemic, an area that's been hit particularly hard. But I do think it's important that the rural city of Wangaratta recognises the potential of the event and what it has been in the past, and maintains our support and relationship with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Herry. Any other councillor like to talk? No, before I put the recommendation to the vote? Okay, we'll put it... sorry, Councillor Grant, did you want to finish off with anything further?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Can we get Councillor Fuller back in? I'll wait till Councillor Fuller takes his seat. Sarah? Thank you, Councillor Fuller. We're going to move on to item 8.2, which is the Council 2021/2022 budget report. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. So this report is presented to Council to consider adopting the 2021-22 budget, which is attached. Council has undertaken a period of public exhibition, during which 13 written submissions were received, alongside a number of officer submissions. The revised position in this budget now is an accounting surplus of $10.17 million, and a small underlying operating deficit of $173,000, which is slightly favourable to the draft budget previously published. It also includes a capital works programme of $27.29 million. So the recommendation, in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020, is that councillors consider the submissions made regarding the budget, and the details of those and the resulting changes to the budget are listed up there on the screen and in the report. That council adopts the 2021 budget, authorises borrowings of $1 million during 2021 towards the capital works programme. Those are borrowings that were originally planned for this financial year, just carried forward into next financial year, not additional borrowings not previously planned. that we authorise the Chief Executive Officer to give notice of the adoption of the budget and forward a copy of the budget to the Minister for Local Government, that you authorise officers to provide formal responses to each submitter of the decision and reasons for that decision in response to their submission, and that we declare the rates and charges for the 21-22 financial year as contained in the attached budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Brindley. Can I please have again, there are no questions on the budget from the general public, so can I please have a mover to move the budget? Councillor Dave Fuller, and a seconder, Councillor Jack Herry. Councillor Fuller, did you want to talk on the budget?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As Councillor Bussell noted earlier, our notes cover both the plan and the budget in some ways, and I thought it pertinent to mention that in order to achieve the goals and aims of our actions in our plan, we need to have the resources to do so. In regards to some of my portfolio items and the interactions there, we're proud to be taking real action to improve our relationship with our Indigenous community, and this starts by developing and implementing a reconciliation action plan in partnership with our Indigenous community. We're a community that loves creativity, and we have nationally acclaimed performances and also our very own Wangaratta Contemporary Textile Award. In investing in the future, we'll be looking at our Creative Precinct, and this includes funds from the development of Creative Precincts Master Plan with support from Creative Vic. We'll also investigate models for funding and grants and opportunities to develop this precinct that deliver exciting and engaging programs for all. In regards to community engagement, we'll continue to identify opportunities to continuously improve our community engagement and our communications, including surveys and establishing internal working groups to develop community engagement toolkit, which will ensure the community is engaged at key stages of all our major council projects, including those of our rural communities. And also in doing so, we have funding set aside for the implementation of our information communication technology strategy, which continues to deliver the customer experience strategy. COVID also showed us that we love coming together as a community and sharing and celebrating, and we'll continue to invest in our commitment of COVID normal events and COVID safe events, including Summer in the Parks, Outdoor Ball, and Light Up Wangaratta and Winterfest where possible. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Any other councillor would like to talk on the budget? Councillor Benton first.
Just like to point out that we'll still be able to, in this budget, have a capital expenditure of 27 million as highlighted going forward. But I will also put on the table that going forward, that this will be the second year that this council has held the resheeting program of rural roads at 1.6 million. And it's something that we've been going to have to work on, and we've kept it at that level to ensure that the rate level didn't get to a point where we would have to have an adjustment. I think it's only reasonable that in the next budget we're going to have to reconsider and make sure, and I'll work with the infrastructure team to make sure that that's going to be funded to a resource level that we have already been led to believe that it needs to be done at around about 2.6 million, and that was some 4 years ago. The other point that I would like to just point out, Mr Mayor, is the, as I mentioned earlier, was the Aquatic Center down there, which has been a considerable amount of resources we still have to do with this expansion. We have a grant coming forward, and I know I might be taking the infrastructure thunder, but some of that works will be funded by a government grant of 5.5 million. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As it's been mentioned earlier, this does go in line with our plan and vision, and I did mention earlier that we will continue to deliver the community-based led grit and resilience program, which is fantastic. We are dedicated to creating a safe and supportive and inclusive community for everyone, and to improve the inclusion and equity, the plan provides objectives and actions including developing the Gender Equity Action Plan and Age-Friendly Strategy and Youth Strategy, which is supported by our budget. Our community groups do incredible work and bringing people together. We are funding total community grant streams of 210,000 across a range of programs, including community grants, active Wangaratta, access and inclusion, and tourism grants. Our young people are the future, so we will continue to partner with our young people on priority projects that respond to their emerging needs. We will also partner with Gateway Health to implement the infant program to assist parents and families with healthy eating and active play from the start of their baby's life. And something that's just taken place, which is really exciting, we will complete the construction of the regional play space at Apex Park to provide a landmark activity area for all young at heart. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Grant, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the significant capital works program that Council has allocated money to, in particular the work that's going to be done in Glenrowan around the Ned Kelly project, and then also Prosecco Road, which is going to add significantly to the tourism offer in the rural city of Wangaratta. But one thing I would like to highlight, and something that, perhaps sticks in my craw just a little bit, is the fact that our garbage collection will increase in terms of the revenue there, but that money will go to the EPA, which I do ask the question of what's happening to that money. And I'm not seeing any of that. I know Council pays a significant amount of money in terms of levies to the EPA, and it's not something that we're actually seeing any sort of result from. So I'd like to highlight that, and because people are always saying, where's all this money going? And it's going straight to the EPA.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Herry, did you have something to say on the budget?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Rees. I think this budget could somewhat be described as the first in line of what can be expected to be more restrained annual budgets after a reasonably long period of above average capital works expenditure. We've had some big years gone by with a lot of really substantial projects which have delivered a lot of benefits to the community. To do so, we've leveraged some advantageous financial market conditions and taken out substantial borrowings to support the delivery of those projects. But I think the return to a more average capital works programs planned for much of the next decade is reasonable, because we need to pay down our debts, continue to deliver the core services to a high standard, and maintain an increasingly large pool of community assets. There are quite a few good things to be said for a touch of frugality. The tightening of the belt brings with it some of the benefits which have been mentioned before, such as the removal of the rate cap variation and just restraining it to the 1.5%. To that end, Council has also conducted a substantial, or embarked upon a substantial financial sustainability review, creating some efficiencies that will deliver savings ongoing. There are some limited specific aspects of the budget that don't quite sit right with me. I'm still unconvinced as to the substantial expenditure in the marketing department, particularly the degree that is proposed. Nor am I entirely convinced an extensive and costly marketing campaign surfaced out of the community engagement. Nevertheless, the budget will begin the work of delivering on the council plan adopted earlier tonight in an effort to realise the community vision. And as with all budgets, it will see a periodic review, particularly with the mid-year review, to ensure it is tracking as expected, or to make changes as need be. Thank you, Mayor Rees.
Thank you, Councillor Herrick. Councillor Bussell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Budget's an interesting document, and the staff have done a pile of work, and I congratulate them for that. And there's just a couple of things that I want to mention here. And I pledged 5 years ago when I got on council to make a difference to people's lives. And in the rural sector, the Pipers Lane Bridge in Whitfield is being replaced at the cost of $205,000, and it's will make a difference to a lot of people, but particularly the grape industry that this bridge wasn't fit for purpose. The other thing I want to mention is that hidden down inside the budget is some money for scoping out the Wirralli netball courts for all the importance that women's sport plays in the community. And I look forward to seeing the plans and the costings on that so that we can get on with the job out there at Wirralli. I look forward to that in the future. And every year I mention, you know, the most renewable form of heating is wood, and $22.50 for 2 cubic metres of wood is not unreasonable for families, which would heat a family for a month. So I just urge everybody to get a permit to collect the wood. So thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. So I'll continue on here. Firstly, I'd like to thank the whole corporate management team for delivering both the community plan and the vision and the budget in line with the end of the financial year. This was a huge effort and puts us well and truly in advance of a lot of other regional and metropolitan councils. I'd just like to refute something before I go on to my spiel about the budget, is that I thank you to Councillor Herry's comments about the marketing budget, and we have reduced it by half from $1 million down to 500,000. So we listen to what the people are telling us and how to keep us in line, and we've done that by reducing the budget by 500,000 in relation to our marketing plan. So, as with the community vision and the council plan, a focus on delivering what's important to our community has been the driving force behind the development of this budget. Our community engagement process has given us a strong understanding of where our community's priorities lie, and this budget funds those key goals of a 4-year council plan. Let's start with the proposed $27.29 million capital works program. 2 landmark projects you've heard about this evening that will significantly enhance and attract tourism in our rural areas. Councillor Grant mentioned the Ned Kelly Glenrowan project with $4.5 million being invested over 2 years. And also she mentioned the King Valley Prosecco Road project, which has attracted a further $4 million of funding. $8.5 million is a sizable investment. However, Council has also taken significant steps to improve our financial sustainability. Of that $8.5 million investment, a whopping $8 million is coming from state government grant funding, with just $500,000 contributed from council cash. That means that as ratepayers, you are getting really, really good value for money. After 3 years of $30 million plus in capital works programs that have delivered some really transformational projects, such as the Wangaratta Aquatic project and the Wangaratta Railway Precinct Enhancement Project, we have also refocused our capital works program with a greater emphasis on making sure that we look after the infrastructure and facilities that we already have. To this end, there will be $16.3 million spent on renewing and upgrading our existing assets, including $5.37 million on roads and bridges, and $3.46 million on building renewal, and $463,000 on footpaths and cycleways. In other words, this is a budget of financial sustainability. It looks to the future while also looking after our community. An accounting surplus of $10.17 million and a small adjusted underlying operating deficit of $173,000 is an improved position from the draft budget and reflects the continued work by the executives and officers to improve the long-term sustainability of the council. The rate cap of 1.5% is applied to total rates revenue in line with the Fairgo rate system cap. With a solid financial base, council can continue to provide all the important services the community expects and values. Again, this is our core business. The services you have told us are important, along with investing in the renewal of existing assets. Finally, I want to thank all those who provided submissions to the budget, and in particular the many community groups. We appreciate your incredible work in the community. While these individual group submissions are not directly funded through the budget, we encourage you all to apply for Council's community grant program later this year, which is designed specifically to allocate funding to the types of projects you have requested. I would like to thank and commend fellow councillor colleagues for their efforts and the constructive debate we've had to create this budget. And again, I would also like to acknowledge the efforts of the CEO, the senior management team and the financial team for all the hours and the effort that they've put into this budget. It is greatly appreciated. I recommend the 2021-2022 budget for your consideration, but more importantly, I recommend that this to be adopted. Thank you. Councillor Fuller, would you like to finish?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to emphasise the last part of your speech there in regards to thanking Brendan, Jamie, Stephen, Marcus and Sarah and their teams. We've had a pandemic, we've had a bit of a rough year in terms of the ability to work together properly within the workplace. On top of that, we've had the Local Government Act changes, and from my 5 years in this building, they've done a stellar job, and I think the accolade needs to be heaped on them and their staff a little bit more in regards to producing these documents in the time and the fashion that they have. So I'd just like to emphasise that part of your speech in regards to them being thanked for the work they've put into it.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Without further ado, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And no one against, which is good. All those in favour. Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Now I'm just bringing up my next budgetary item. Is there? No, it's not. It's there. Okay, so we'll now move on to an extra item that was put into the draft paper here late last week. It's had the time to go in as a section 9 of infrastructure services at 9.1 is C31135, the WISAC expansion tender, and I'll hand over to Director Marcus Goonan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is presented to Council to recommend the awarding of contract C31135 for the Wangaratta Sports and Aquatic Center expansion. This contract is to appoint a suitably qualified contractor to carry out the detailed design, finalisation and tender documentation for the expansion of the WISAC building. This expansion is based on the funding that was secured through the state government for the new basketball, netball courts and expansion of the gym area. The recommendation that's put in front of Council is to award the contract to Miller Architects, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign and disclose the contract amount.
Thank you, Director Goonan. Can I have someone move the recommendation, please? Councillor Benton and again Councillor Grant. Got you there, thank you. Councillor Benton, do you want to talk on the recommendation?
Only to say, Mr. Mayor, that this is probably the start, really, of the making this centre probably the envy of some of the other areas in the local government area in Victoria to have such an iconic facility at the end of this, and it'll be a magnificent facility. And as I've mentioned before, this has been attracted in a grant, as the infrastructure Marcus Goonan has said, of $5.5 million from the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? Councillor Grant, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo Councillor Benton's comments by saying that this will go a long way to further strengthening the position of WISAC, not only for our community but for the broader community. It strengthens our position as a regional city in Victoria and gives us the opportunity to not only hold events in our own community but host events from all over Australia. And I think, you know, when you see the strength of sport and sporting activity, this facility is going to play a very important part in that role. And I'd like to thank the staff that have put in the bid. Again, we've looked to getting significant external funding, not only for the pool but for this addition, and I think that not only generates income for our community during the building, but it also generates income and jobs into the future as well. So I see it a real positive, and it will further strengthen our position as a regional sporting destination.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Bustle, you didn't have your hand up there, did you? Oh, I thought you might have been tourism. This is great for tourism. Thank you. If there's no other, I'll refer back to Councillor Benton to finish off. Are you okay, Councillor Benton?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I'll put the recommendation now to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Thank you, Director Goonan.
Would you like me to disclose the price?
I would. Thank you.
The final price was $447,062, GST exclusive.
Thank you, Director. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the conclusion of our special meeting here tonight. I'd like to thank you all for attending. The 28th day of June will be a memorable one for the rural city of Wangaratta with the adoption of our council plan and vision, and of course our budget. And it looks like a great financial year heading forward. Thank you to all for attending. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery.